with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
The dark days of war have finally passed. The realm is safe, but the sword of protection was broken in battle. The king has called on the greatest swordcrafters in the land to craft the new sword of protection.
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me neither, but that is a story of Swordcrafters craft 2D game pieces into a 3D sword, a new game that's currently on Kickstarter. And tonight we're lucky enough to have on Adam, who is the creator and mastermind behind this great game. Is that correct? Is that how you fall into line with it, Adam?
What's up, Blake? Yeah, mastermind, designer, owner of Adam's Apple Games. Yep.
Cool. And thank you so much for coming on Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf. We really appreciate it, Adam, especially at such short notice.
Hey, thanks for having me, Blake.
No problem. Glad you could join us. So before we talk about this, let's rewind a little bit if we could. We don't have to go all the way back unless, of course, you were born into board gaming. How did you get started in tabletop board gaming?
You know, as a kid playing the classics, Don't Break the Ice, stuff like that. Moved away from it, got into video games for about 12 or 13 years, got back into it when my parents retired. They said they had this farming game. They introduced me to Carcassonne, and my mind was blown. And, it just took off since then. And I started designing games and started publishing games.
Yeah, I remember vaguely that. Yeah, I remember you talking about that on Richard. We're Not Wizards, his podcast that I just recently listened to. So that's pretty cool. So minus, I don't want to let you pick any of your games. Well, it's not me, but my audience might have me run out into the street. I know you have several games out there, but minus your games, do you have a favorite game at the current time?
Yeah, I think I would actually go with King Domino. Just simple, put it on the table. Anyone's gonna like it, but it's still decently strategic. Play it with a grid of 5. Play it with a grid of 7. It's legit.
Cool, beans. I think that's on our list. We don't have it yet, but yeah, it sounds like a pretty fun game from what I've heard about it.
Yeah. I mean, good balance of like approachability, but also strategy too.
Cool. And now, So is that your favorite mechanic that they use in that game, or do you have a favorite gaming mechanic?
Well, they kind of use like a map building mechanic and like a tile laying mechanic. You're building like patterns and shapes, whatever. I do tend to gravitate towards some of the abstracts, but I always back them with a theme, especially when I'm designing. So like I'm a very thematic designer, and so in the past I've done craft beer, done food trucks, and now into swords. And so like I always lean hard into theme, and then find mechanics that support it.
Cool, man. So going from craft beer and food trucks, how'd you get to swords?
It's a classic question right there, and probably the $1 million question. This one evolved from multiple renditions over time. It started as kind of a dungeon explorer, like a roll dice, fight monsters thing, and then it evolved into a little more of a resource collection. But then we're sitting there one day at Gen Con last year, and we're exhausted, and it was a successful Gen Con. It was awesome, and I'm just kind of like shooting the crap with my butt, and I say, hey, like, what if we made a game about just making swords, like a 3D sword? And all of a sudden, like this bubble just burst in our minds. And we were off to the race, designing this board game called Swordcrafters. We designed the game literally on the drive home, and it has pretty much like its core has stayed the same since. We've of course tweaked and developed and improved upon it, but that's kind of how it came to life.
Cool. That's awesome. So during play testing, I know you said you kept the core the same, but was there ever anything that you had to scrap because it just wouldn't work?
Yeah. One of the big things we scrapped was cutting. So in Swordcrafters, you have a grid of sword tiles. You're making a cut in the grid of sword tiles. Each player makes a cut in the grid of sword tiles. Each cut separates the grid into 2 groupings. So you're always, creating an extra grouping every time a player cuts. When we started, those cuts affected every grouping on the table, and so you kind of had to mentally interpolate this grid onto the table as to like what has been cut, where the grid lie today. And so we super simplified that and said, that is really creating a barrier to understanding the game. Let's only let the players cut one grouping at a time. As soon as we did that, like, it was beautiful, and it's just flowed, and it started becoming like an elegant game design.
Cool. That's awesome. That's really cool. Now, do you get to sword fight after, or how would play sound? Or no, I mean, how would play look? No, how would it sound? This is a podcast after all.
You do not get to sword fight afterwards. This is a board game. It's not a toy. That being said, it's one of the most unique board games on the market, in that you build a 3D tableau. Each player builds a 3D tableau that resembles a sword. And so the way that the gameplay sounds is it goes from a 2D to a 3D concept. So you have a grid of tiles on the table. Each round, each player is cutting into the grid. Each player is selecting a grouping of tiles from the grid after the cuts are made. Then you are crafting those and assembling those into your 3D sword. And so that is essentially the core gameplay loop. There is, you're making cuts and selections based on what sword tiles are going to be most valuable to you and maybe like least valuable to the other players. You are then crafting this 3D puzzle into your sword. And at the end of the game, this is kind of one of the most unique things about the game is it scores on 3 facets. The longest sword gets a bonus, a quality sword gets a bonus, and a sword that is high in magic gets a bonus. And there are gems on each of these sword tiles. And so the gems are what facilitate those quality and magic bonuses.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember you talking with like I said, with Richard on the podcast, but so that's pretty cool. And it looks like, let's see here. So if somebody takes a chance on this, when would they anticipate getting their game? It looks like you're getting close to being done, and it looks like they're really close. You're really close to your goal. By the time of the recording, less than $800 to go. Yeah,
I plan to have games in hand by September at the latest. Ideally, it's actually there before Gen Con in your hands. But I've done this before a few times now, so not a first-time creator, actually a third-time creator, and have a pretty good system in place, and have really figured out a way that works. So have had really great customer service in the past, and right now we're actually running a money back guarantee. So if you back it and it doesn't work out for some reason, just let me know, and we'll make it. We'll make you happy.
Do you hear? I don't know if I've heard about that on a Kickstarter game per se.
That's crazy, man. No, that's actually kind of the Jamie Stigmeyer, way of running a Kickstarter. So just put all the risk on the publisher and put none of the risk on the consumer, and get people on board, in supporting your idea.
Well, it makes sense. It's a business, and the customer's always right, aren't they?
Customer's always right. I mean, if you think about it, like if somebody orders a game from Amazon, right, and they got it and it was damaged or something, something was wrong with it, or maybe like they even opened it and they didn't like it, like one play, they probably would return that thing, right? It's like what makes that business exchange different when you're on Kickstarter? The Kickstarter creator should not be sitting on there trying to hose the consumer, and so the consumer should really have the right, in my opinion, to like the consumer's taking risk on the Kickstarter creators. So the consumer should have the right to really like go for a full warranty on the product. I understand that, and I think the X factor is kind of shipping. So, if that happens a lot, then the creator gets really hosed on shipping. But if they make a good product, then it's not a big deal.
For sure. A while back ago, I had on the Unfiltered Gamer, and he talked about there's different ways that some of the creators go about it. You could make a really good game and not market it or whatnot, so you don't get nobody hears about it, and it could kind of fall by the wayside. Or you can make a lousy game, market it the heck out of it, and then by the time you come out with a different game, nobody wants the next one and whatnot, and so on and so forth. Or you can just do both of them, make a really great game, and then market the heck out of it. And then this even adds an extra element to it, it sounds like, where you have excellent customer service. So if they, per se, don't like one of your games or something happens and they need to exchange it, they're going to more than likely or not come back for another game that's more their style, I guess.
Yeah, and I know like you're working with all types of creators. I'm into distribution, and so like it's actually gone as far as Europe. It's entered distribution. My games are entering distribution in Europe, and so I literally am getting emails from like in Facebook like messages from people in Germany that got like a dice from the food truck game or something that was a bum dice, and I'm sending like a replacement dice. So I'm doing whatever I can, to just to make it work for people. And you also have to respect that people have different tolerances when it comes to quality of components and damage and all that too. So I think just put the customer first.
Definitely, yeah. I know when we go into the bookstore or like a game store or whatnot, and there's more than one copy, me and my wife, we always like to get the back copy that hasn't been touched by everybody and stuff. So yeah, everybody's got their preferences.
Yeah.
For sure, cool. Was there any, besides just getting bored at Gen Con, was there anything else that went into the idea of coming up with the sword game as opposed with the where you have the food and the beer and whatnot beforehand?
Like I said before, I'm really drawn to theme, and so building and creating a 3D element as you play, I saw as a really unique function, and the fact that I was able to put a theme against it that made sense and tied into gameplay was even more exciting. And so like that was essentially the driving force of the vision. Like, we're making a sword. Like, it was tried and true the entire development process. Like, you need to make a sword and you need to make the sword feel awesome. And like at the end of the game, like, I don't even care if it breaks the game, but like, we're comparing sword length because that is one of the coolest things you can do at the end of the game. You're like, okay, the longest route in Ticket to Ride, super fun bonus, right? Like, you're counting trains at the end. But what is cooler than putting a literal sword that you've built into the center of the table and comparing length to see who has won that 10 points?
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So does everybody get the same amount of tiles? Wouldn't they all be a similar size or not?
It depends. So it's a drafting game, right? So each player is cutting, each player is drafting, and actually one of the tiles in the grid of sword tiles is a first player tile. And so if you take the first player tile, you'll be first player to cut and first player to choose next round. So you can actually put yourself in a better position to get more of these sword tiles. Going for length is definitely one of the strategies, but it's not the only strategy, and it's not going to be certain to win you the game.
Cool. Yeah, I remember there's magic and then something else like
quality. Yeah. So let me really quick give an overview of the 3 scoring metrics. So length is the most straightforward. You compare swords at the end. Longest sword gets that victory point bonus. Second thing is quality. Quality is based on the number of gems that you have adjacent and matching on one side of your sword. So for instance, you have like 4 orange gems on one side of your sword. Then you have like 3 green gems on another side of the sword. That 4 gems is your highest quality, and that will be the one that scores. It only scores once per sword. So that is where the 3D puzzly nature of this game comes into play. Every time you place a sword tile, it's actually going to be parallel and then perpendicular and then parallel and then perpendicular. So you need to think ahead from round to round to try to line these things up on one side of the sword. It's kind of tough to explain, but it's awesome, and it really clicks with players once they've played it 1 or 2 rounds, and it's really fun to see it kind of click in their brain. The third facet is sword magic. Now, the way sword magic works is the sum of 2 different gem types as determined at the start of the game. That's going to be magic. Okay, so at the end of the game, you're like, okay, who has the most orange and red combined gems? Everyone counts orange and red in their entire sword. Whoever has the most gets the highest bonus. Whoever has the second most gets the middle. Whoever has the least gets the lowest. And if there's a 4th and 5th player, you get a goose egg, a 0.
Oh boy, there you go. So how many people can this play? 5 players?
2 to 5, and actually it's great 3 to 5, and it's actually super dicey and cutthroat at 2. So I think this is actually going to be a huge surprise to like the 2-player game lovers. That it's really back and forth and cutthroat with 2. It's fun.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of games we play are 2 players or whatnot. So yeah, that's awesome. So I know you're probably a little bit biased. So are there other people that maybe have played it and might have opinions on it, like other reviewers and whatnot?
Yeah. I do, I value like the reviewers that are working their butts off to Kickstarter, copies reviewed. We ended up going through Tantrum House. They're a paid reviewership. They loved it though. And then the other ones were just all unpaid. So it went through Edo. He said he had a ton of fun with it. He does really quick reviews, but he's just like, hey, this is a lot of fun. Reminds me of New York Slice, but better. And then the third one was Lance from Undead Viking, and he just it was adorable. Like I played with Lance and his daughter, and they just got it so fast because I mean they're gamers, right? And like just watching the game evolve and everyone build swords and like Lance and his daughter have all these inside jokes together was so much fun, and like you could tell they really really enjoyed the game.
Cool, that's awesome. Yeah, so that's great. So, and those are, it looks like all the, they have either links or they talk about it on your Kickstarter page. Looking at this.
Yeah, and then the other thing I'd mention too is like, this game has been to now Con of the North. It's going to be at Gary Con. It's going to be at one of the, I think it's called Mine Fair, which is the big Minecraft convention coming to the Twin Cities. And so we're getting a ton of players on the game. And their feedback has been amazing too. So people are recognizing really quick that it's so simple to play, but like it's actually really strategic too. And it actually has a pretty high skill ceiling. So you can get better and better as you play the game. Not only do we have, kind of a beginner rule set, like, hey, you score length, quality, and magic, great. But you can also go advanced really quick and score quality on each side of your sword. So now you're not only thinking about one side and building that puzzly nature on one side, but you're also expanding that puzzle nature to every side of the sword.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. And it looks like there are a couple of editions. There's a retail edition as well as an expanded edition. What's the difference between those?
Yeah, great question. We in the development process, I actually started out with a little bit more of a meaty game, and the more and more I played it, it was very evident that I needed to refine and simplify and make it more elegant. That being said, I still have a passion for a little bit more depth and complexity in games, and wanted to offer that with Kickstarter, because essentially it had been played a ton of times. So we basically had both copies developed. Now, I will say the core game is going to be the game that is going to serve the biggest audience. You're 4 years old, you're 6 years old, you're probably going to be able to play it and have a great time. Like, it's a family game, but it's got a ton of strategy baked into it as well. Now, if you want to add a little bit more decision space, you're going to go with the Relic expansion, which is expands the game into 3 different facets. The first facet is we had wild gems into the game. So wild gems give you, just like you're thinking, more flexibility when you take that wild gem. It can serve as any different gem color. The second thing we're doing is we're adding different tiles that are relics. We're calling relics inside the grid. This functions the exact same way with the I cut you choose mechanism. So you're slicing, you're grabbing and grouping, exact same way as you did before, but there are extra tiles on the grid, so the grid's bigger. And these tiles are giving you extra mini goals as you go along. So think about this as like Ticket to Ride. Like, am I going to take a few more destination tickets or not? It's more challenging if you take more destination tickets. This is what we're delivering with the relics. And then the third thing, and we just announced it and on the Kickstarter, and it's not official yet, but like it's probably going in there, is we're adding tips to the swords. And the way that the tips work is the tips give you a hidden goal, like I'm going for red gems or I'm going for yellow gems. Each player has a hidden goal, and it adds a little bit more of that hidden competition in the game, which is really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. So would somebody like myself, I suffer from analysis paralysis, probably be better to go with the retail version, or?
Yeah, you'd probably better with the retail version, but at the same time, I would say like within 3, 4, 5 plays, like you might really, really find a lot of value in that expanded version. So the retail version is going to be the version that's going to retail. The expanded version is only available via Kickstarter. And then once we get to the retail markets, we're going to be releasing an expansion like 6 or 8 or 9 months down the line. So you can't get it yet. If you want the depth and complexity, go for the expanded. If you want the simplicity and the elegance, go for the retail.
Awesome. Cool. So if somebody takes a chance on this, when would they anticipate getting the game? I know you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver.
Like I said before, September is what the Kickstarter says. Yep, and we're hoping to deliver actually at Gen Con. So I kind of set it at September, but my goal is to actually put it out for August.
Cool, there you go. So yeah, that's awesome. So per se, somebody's been listening or whatnot, but they've fallen asleep. They missed what we were talking about. It wouldn't be because of you or your awesome game. It'd be because of me and my podcast. Sometimes I drone on and on, especially having at the time of this recording just the first part of March, and I already have 31 episodes on for the calendar year so far. So they get a little bit tired of me, but they're suddenly jolted awake by that dragon that's coming at them, and they're going to need a sword. Why should they take a chance on this great game, the Swordcrafters on Kickstarter, especially with all the other great games out there? I noticed Batman, it dropped the other day. Why should they take a chance on Swordcrafters?
Well, I mean, we're the one game out there on Kickstarter that's truly doing something unique. To be perfectly honest, like we are, like what other game can you build a 3D tableau where everyone builds a thing? I mean, this is like junk art on steroids, right? This is like Santorini on steroids, and the fact that like I don't know, like I think it's so edgy and different that like people have looked at it and said, well, I'm gonna wait and see because it's so edgy and different. But you know, that's what Kickstarter's for, man. You, like take a chance on us, and we're gonna deliver. Like we got a track record of delivering awesome stuff, so get on board. We'd love to have you. We'll craft swords.
Cool. There you go. That's awesome. And yeah, like I said, it looks like you're just about to reach that goal. I imagine hopefully today, if not tomorrow or sometime in the near future. That's awesome. So yeah. And we'll make sure we leave all the links in the show notes so people don't have to, they can be able to go ahead and click those as opposed to getting caught by the dragon or whatnot. And then they'll be able to kill the dragon once they go ahead and get that game in September or whatnot. So that's awesome. Now, the next portion of our podcast is called Adventures in Application Acquisition, where we talk about an app, be it for cell phone, tablet, computer game, even video game. It doesn't even necessarily have to be related to board games. A while back ago, we had somebody on who had a game. They had a app on their phone where you can take a picture of anything and it'll tell you whether or not it's a hot dog. Do you have an app we can talk about for a moment, Adam?
I think what you're talking about there is actually an episode from a TV show on HBO. That's funny. Yeah, I don't know if you're like trolling or not, but that's awesome. Okay.
Oh no, it's actually there is one on Jan who they ran Side Effects. It's a podcast. They ran a game called Side Effects, which was a card game where you have like different elements and you have to cure it with different medications, and some of them give you other side effects. And she actually talked about that application.
I think she might have been trolling you. There's a TV show on HBO. It's called oh man, I forget what it's called, but essentially like it's a startup incubator in San Francisco. And this guy in this incubator creates this app called Hot Dog or Not Hot Dog or something like that. And like, yeah, and so like it's a TV show, right? And so that was one of the punchlines of the TV show. It's like I was able to identify any type of food, but really the app was like hot dog or not hot dog. So you might have been trolled, but
well, I guess they came out with the real thing. They came out with the real thing, I
guess. I guess I believe that. That's funny. Okay, so the app that I would go for is Upwork. It is an app that links you with. It's also a website. It links you with virtual assistants. I've actually been leveraging some virtual assistants for the last almost a month, and there is a talented skill base of people in the world that are able to provide data, analytics, social media support, some light graphic design for, like basically when you're sleeping. So it's basically having like an extra graphic design partner or an extra like data analyst or, an extra like social media whiz on your team for, I mean, you're paying these people, but like it's probably for a fraction of the cost of what you might pay someone in the US to do this. So the app essentially links you up with them, and it allows you to check in if they have questions about their jobs and monitor some of their progress. If they have deliverables, check in on the deliverables, and the website as well has some great features as well. So,
and it's called Upworks.
Upwork. Yep. It's kind of like a Fiverr, but a little bit more of like a, long-term relationship than Fiverr.
Oh, cool. That sounds good. So is that I imagine, is the app free and then you just pay for the work, or how does that work?
App is free. You pay. I mean, you can set up jobs based on like one deliverable, or you can set up jobs based on hourly. And I actually have two different jobs set up right now. One of them is based on deliverables, so that is kind of some graphic design support, and then one of them is based on hourly work. So I essentially kick off a task every week and pay for like 10 to 15 hours of tasks for every week. And what's great about it is like it allows me to be a little more effective. So I can spend more time on the things that I'm really good at, and, kind of farm out some of those things that like I'm average at, but someone else could be just as good at too.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't heard of that. So let's see here. So, and I guess it depends on your project, or do they have some kind of pay scale, or how does that work?
Well, you need to find the right person for the right job, I think, is what I would say. So you need to put in the time to research and find a person that's really gonna provide value to your project or to whatever you're doing. I mean, there are people on there that are good with like voiceovers, or good with like infographics, or good with like, I mean, you kind of name it. Like, there's a skill set. Not everyone is going to be good at everything, and if they are, then they're going to be pretty pricey. So, kind of pick and choose battles, right?
There you go. Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, it's called Upwork. And if you own the rights to that, what would be one thing you would do to make it a better app?
That is a really tough question. Like, I would, honestly, I think it's pretty dang short up. Like, it's pretty dang good. I mean, maybe the one thing that I would do is making the searching process a little bit easier. So finding a person that is going to add value to my project, make that easier. It definitely took me like 14 or 15 pages worth of candidates to search through to find the right price point, to find the right skill set, to find the right person that has worked on jobs that I think, like, I have confidence that they're going to do a good job for me.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool, that's awesome. So yeah, and we'll leave the link in the show notes or whatnot. And I guess you heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. What Adam would do to make that app better. We try to have green contact, so if the creators or anybody related to the project is listening, hopefully they can fix that for you, Adam, for the future reference.
Honestly, it's not even a fix thing. It's just it's just a slight optimization.
Or yeah, slightly optimize it. So there you go. Cool. Now, minus coming there to your hometown to stalk you in person, how would people go about finding out about you or your games, Adam?
So my company's called Adam's Apple Games. We are on Facebook, Adam's Apple Games. We are on Twitter, Adam's Apple Games. We are on the internet, www.adamsapplegames.com. And we are on Kickstarter. Search Adam's Apple Games. You'll probably find us. Also, Swordcrafters. And yeah, I don't know. We're an engaging small publisher looking to make a splash in the scene still, and willing to take a risk to try to bring new experiences and new types of games into the hobby.
Yeah, I never heard about. I think a while back ago I heard about the food truck game. That sounds kind of intriguing. What can you tell us about that one, Aaron? And is it even still available, or have you delivered on it, or how'd that work?
Oh yeah, it is. It's actually out of print right now, and so it's being reprinted. You might be able to find it at your local game store. We are distributed. Food Truck Frenzy it's called Truck Off the Food Truck Frenzy. 2 to 6 players. You're sending your food trucks up to different venues across town. Each venue has a different die on it: a D4, a D6, a D8, a D10, a D12, and a D20. And that die represents the number of customers that can show up at the venue. You'll assume that a D20 is like the most customers, highest probability, but also the highest competition where the food trucks are going to go. And so you really need to play kind of the field and the odds of the dice. So where are the people going to go, and what is the dice going to roll? Now, after all that stuff happens, you get action cards. Everyone has the same 10 action cards. You're playing action cards like move a truck to another location, shut a truck down, shut a venue down, ×2 on my payout, place another truck, move my truck, stuff like that. So it's a fast but very strategic and tactical simultaneous action selection game. plays a lot like Go Nuts for Donuts, but with a little bit more of a bite.
There you go. Cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'd love to play that one. I'll have to look at my game store. That's cool. So, yeah, I don't want to keep you all night, but we really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief with us, Adam.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
No problem.
It's time for Kickstarter Corner. To begin now.
You heard her right, and you know what time it is? Yes, that's right. It's time for Kickstarter Corner. Got some ice cream stuck in my throat. But the show must go on, as Richard Simpson of We're Not Wizards says. So, here goes nothing. Today on Kickstarter Corner, we've got Infinities, Defiance of Fate, a strategic adventure game with resource management, map building, and dice drafting, as well as infinite replay for value for 2 to 4 players. And this game goes through the 22nd of March. And then we've also got Call Me Salma, a game of asymmetrical powers, area control, and beauty for 2 to 4 players. This goes through the March 11th, which is a Sunday, at 8:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And yeah, this looks like a really fun game. And then we've also got Centrix, a spinning, jumping, bumping 3D tabletop game. A fun, friendly, frantic, unique, multi-level game. Players use card combinations in rotating rings to unlock the best route to the top. Check this one out on the Kickstarters. They're finishing up really soon. They go through the 12th of March. I really hope they get their goal. If they don't, I really hope they relaunch. Then we've also got Palm Island, which is a portable card game. Take your island with you. Play anywhere with the portable deck transformer game. This one, they really overfunded for sure. And they did it really quick too. They're already, at the time of this recording, they're $46,000 over their goal, and they still got a week to go. By the time you hear this, it'll be about there. And they go through the 14th of March, so check that out. Then, one that just recently launched, yes sirree, Bob, it recently launched. This is called Fractured Zombies, and they have 55 days to go. They're going for a long time. I'll talk to them about it or whatnot, but they're already over halfway to their goal. And they still got 55 days to go. Fractured Zombies is a card game involving letter cards designed by a dyslexic. Also involving chainsaws, guts, brains, and severed hands. You might want to play this with the older people in your family. This is the first edition. Check it out on the Kickstarter. It sounds like it's pretty simple to play. And yeah, love the artwork. And you might too. But yeah, keep in mind you might want to be giving it to not sending your 3-year-old to play it. But yeah, so there's that. Now, you know what time it is. It's time to go ahead and get on with your lives. We'll get on with ours. Go ahead and get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others into the geek fold. And we'll catch y'all on the flip side. Game Relief, you guessed it, out.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.